Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 300. Did you hear that, Nick? It's episode 300. Bet you didn't know that before the podcast. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios inside the bunker. North and South Jersey. Talking Devils hockey as the playoffs continue. There is no offseason with us, Nick. And pucksandpitchforks.com.
No, absolutely not. No, I took 2 days off, and I felt like I was off for a month. Because I don't take much time off from this. We just keep going, and we're back at it. We're at full force, full steam ahead. You know, I had an article go up just a few minutes ago by Jenny Streeter talking about 3 players that shouldn't be on the team next year. 3 players the Devils should do everything they can to kind of hit the bricks, kid.
I didn't read the article, but I'm going to guess which 3. Bastian Lazar.
Well, can't give away. It's in the article, but I think you're 0 for 2.
Okay.
I wrote about the guys who will definitely not be there, and I don't think Lazar's on that list. I think there's the injury that he dealt with means that there's an outside chance that he's back.
Okay. All right. Well, there's the teaser. There's the cliffhanger. Go to pucksandpitchforks.com.
But, yeah, these are guys under contract for next year that should be gonzo.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of opinions right now. Watching the playoffs, wondering what the Devils are going to do in the offseason to kind of improve their team. We learned a lot during the Carolina series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that article is up on pucksandpitchforks.com. 3 things we learned from that Carolina beatdown.
Yeah, well, I said something a couple times on the podcast. And I think the Devils, this is what they lacked, except for the exception of Timo Meier, who became, when the attention came on him during the playoffs. Crashing the net, going hard to the net, making the goaltender pay.
Yeah.
In case some inadvertent contact. And one team that does that well are the Florida Panthers.
You sure about that?
Well, it's effective. It always works. It always can turn the series around when you need to.
Well, that game is currently 2-2. And the Panthers are down 1-0 in the series. So, we'll see.
But the Panthers have a Stanley Cup, and one other team hasn't done it since '67.
I get it. But we're talking about right now. What have you done for me lately, Sam?
Come on, Nick. Are you kidding me? Crashing the net and disturbing the goaltender it is so basic. The Devils are just too nice. That's the problem that they had against the Carolina Hurricanes, who, by the way, beat the Washington Capitals, coming back 2-1 to beat them. And, I like the Florida Panthers model. I don't know if the Devils have the personnel to replicate it, but if you're going into the offseason, the bottom 6, they need players that can cause chaos, can change the tide of the game, the narrative, just by being a little nasty. And I think that's what the Devils need right now. They're just too nice. They've got a lot of they've got Jack Hughes. They've got Nico Hischier. They've got quite a nice, the blue line. Despite the injuries, goaltending is not an issue for at least next year, I don't think. But I just like to see some snarkiness, snarl, Brad Marchand type players come on to the New Jersey Devils because, again, against the Carolina Hurricanes, they crashed into Markstrom. No problem.
I mean, we literally knocked their goalie out of the series. I don't you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, Timo Meier is that guy. I do think they could use another one, like you said, on the bottom six, like who plays like Timo Meier, who could score goals by crashing the net. And I think they thought Stefan Nason was going to be that guy, but Stefan Nason's more of a wait for his opportunities guy, not a crash the net guy. Like, he's going to be a net front presence and then bank it, either tip in a goal or get a rebound in for a goal. But he's not going to crash the net like Meier does. I just don't think the Panthers. I think the Panthers model is when you chase and fail, and I almost see the Devils did part of that this year, right? Because if you think about the Devils in the first half, they looked like the Florida Panthers. For part of it, they were hitting people, they were knocking people out, they were suppressing shots, they were smothering teams. I think the problem with that same is you get hurt playing that way. And I don't think the Devils have the right strength and conditioning to do that. Like, I just don't.
What does that mean, the right strength and conditioning? Are you saying that we need new trainers?
I'm not saying we need new trainers. I just think you need you lose a lot of speed when you play that way, or straight line speed. There's some speed in the peripherals, but you lose a lot of straight line speed, and the Devils need straight line speed. There's a lot of things that I noticed this year that I just don't have enough information to put into an article, but it's something that I'm really I'm curious about. There's a lot of these really tactical things about the season that I just noticed. For one, Luke Hughes didn't have he had a lot of 20-mile-per-hour bursts, but not a lot of 22 and 23-mile-per-hour bursts, which tells me, and I think that has to do with the shoulder injury that probably lingered all season, and also the Sheldon Keefe system. I think those two things kind of changed how he played, but you didn't see the coast to coast that Luke Hughes did multiple times in the Lindy Ruff system, and even under Travis Green for those couple months. Dougie Hamilton's shot is lesser. It's still probably one of the top 15% of the league. But he's in the top 5% of the league. There's a big difference there. I think when you're looking at what went wrong for the Devils this year, it's just
sorry, Nick, I 100% disagree with you. Respectfully.
I didn't even finish my point.
Respectfully. I've heard enough.
Finish my sentence.
Okay, finish your sentence.
I think the guys, for one, I think Fitzgerald swung and missed on a lot of the types of guys he was getting. The philosophy was right. The execution was wrong. I think you needed one of Paul Cotter or Stefan Nason. I think you needed I don't think you could have gone on into the season with Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Eric Hulla, and Curtis Lazar as your centers. That just wasn't the right philosophy, right? You needed another center. You need another, and I agree. You do need a guy who's going to crash the net from the center position, a guy who's going to jump up into the play, and Dawson Mercer, he's just not there. This is not what he is. He also said in his in his postseason press conference, he doesn't want to play center, which is bizarre to me. Like, you would think that you would want to play center, but he said he doesn't want. He said he'd rather play wing. I think like your priority, like weirdly the priority is they need a center. They need a center.
Logan Cooley.
And the problem is like the guys that would be perfect for this are going to be impossibly expensive. Like Ryan O'Reilly would have been great, but they're asking for a psychotic amount for Ryan O'Reilly over in Nashville. You know, and I'm trying to like I gotta like really dive in, but there's a couple guys like listen like you know, the Leafs have Max Domi. I think that's a guy that's like interesting. I know Max Domi is like a very hit or miss player, but he's the type of player that like scores clutch goals, and that's kind of like what you need. And I think he'd be like a really good guy on the third line. You know, like that kind of center who's just gonna and like Max Domi's kind of small, but he plays big. I think that's the kind of guy that you're looking for, Sam. And I think that works. As long as you get one of them, you don't want to overindulge on them just because you do need more skill in this lineup. When you realize that Alex Holtz failed, and you moved on from him, and you know you spent your offseason prioritizing guys like Cotter, like Stefan Nason's one of the slowest players in the league. I don't know if you know that. Like he is one of the slowest players in the league. So it doesn't mesh well with some of what the Devils are trying to do. And then you also have like Palat. So like you at times you had Palat on Jack Hughes' line and Nason on Nico Hischier's line, and they're both slowing those lines down. And I think you need to bring speed up to the top six. And I know I did write about tempering expectations for Arsenij Gricic, who signed with the Devils officially this week. But he's a guy whose skating can match Hughes or Hischier on those top six lines. Whether that is enough in the North American game to keep him in the top six, I'm not sure. He's 24 years old. This isn't like a typical prospect we're talking about. This is a guy who has professional experience and has been doing this at a high level. But I do think you need one more speedy winger, just to kind of you don't want to go too small with it, but like I've always liked Athanasiou. I think he's on Chicago. He's kind of played his way out of the NHL though. But somebody like that type, like a 6'3" guy who's got blazing speed. You know, maybe they trade for Rickard Rakell, who I think is a really good fit for this team. But again, we're looking at these guys who like really, really fit the Devils, and they're just like incredibly expensive. And the guys that you would have wanted, you would have targeted, those teams are like, you know, you wanted some of the guys maybe on the Ducks, but the Ducks say they want to be a playoff team next year, so they're not going to be trading guys or selling guys. Obviously, you wanted Brady Tkachuk, but the Senders think that they're on the up, so they're not trading Brady Tkachuk. You know, I'm trying to think of like some of the other guys. Like there's some guys in the Blues, like Jordan Kyrou would have been fantastic for this team, but the Blues made the playoffs and had one of the most exciting games we've ever seen in Game 7 of the first round. So they're not trading any of their players away. They're not selling. You know, you're looking at all these opportunities, and Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but am I looking at like the least amount of sellers we've had in a long time in this league? And Chicago has nothing you want. Like I was looking at Chicago's roster yesterday. I want nothing on that team.
All right, let's back up here because I want to go back to why I disagree with you. You were talking about Luke Hughes going 20 miles per hour versus 22, 24 miles per hour. What was it? The A something speed or whatever you were talking about. The
straight line speed.
Yeah, straight line speed. Look, I'm all about pushing the tempo, but that will fail in the playoffs because it would not be, the team would not be built for the playoffs because teams will clutch grab. You can get away with a lot more physicality. You can slow that down immediately, and it'll be ineffective. And I think that's part of the reason why the Devils were ineffective because they couldn't They couldn't get their speed on because they're worn out by the third period. And we even saw that against Carolina in the double overtime that just they got outshot.
I understand, but they didn't get outshot in the third period. They blew it in the second.
As the game went along, Carolina just dominated. Absolutely dominated.
I think
they couldn't even.
You were playing with every guy was hurt on that team, pretty much.
Excuses. Excuses. I'm just saying the team needs to bulk up even more, but on the bottom six.
Oh, I don't disagree. The problem is these shoulder injuries are going to cause you to where you can't bulk up. Like your bulking season is now much shorter, right? If Jack Hughes is rehabbing until training camp.
Wait, who has shoulder injuries? It's just the Hughes brothers, right?
No, it's the Hughes brothers. It's Pesci. It's Nemitz is still dealing. He didn't go to Worlds because he's still dealing with his shoulder injury. It's
I wasn't paying attention to the exit interviews with all the injuries and surgeries or whatever, so forgive me for that. But
there's quite a few shoulder injuries.
Then we have to ask the reason why, or is it just a mere coincidence?
Just for Brad got shoulder surgery. So, it's 5 guys dealing with shoulder injuries, and probably more. Remember Santeri Hataka had the shoulder injury, and he missed most of the season. And now he's not even in your system. He left. He went to play overseas, which is insane to me.
But Jack Hughes' shoulder injury, was that a freak accident, you think, with Jack Eichel, or was it wear and tear, or a little bit of both?
But I think Luke's is wear and tear. I think that Luke got hurt in the offseason, rested for as long as he could. He came back, and he was hurt the whole year. I think the same thing goes for Simon Nemitz. I think Pesci's was wear and tear. He said he hurt it in game 1. But and then you have Bratt, who I think was wear and tear. I think they're just, and Bratt, like, here's the thing about Bratt, is Bratt had 80 hits this year. He was the only player in the league with 80 hits and 80 points. So he's hitting people, and he got a shoulder injury. So I agree. The Devils have to add the right type of physicality in the offensive zone. But you don't want to like a lot of guys go out and get Ryan Reeves, and that's not the right move for this team. Or they'll go out and get are you going to pay $9 million to go get Brad Marchand at his age? That's a mistake. Are you going to go out and spend $9 million on Sam Bennett? Again, I think that's a mistake. I like Sam Bennett as a player, but he's not a $9 million player. And he's plays the type of game that's going to get you hurt. Him hurt. You know what I mean? I think, he plays a little bit of an on-the-edge game. I think I don't think he's as dirty as people say he is. I think that's just the Florida Panthers of it all, right? They just think everybody kind of plays that way. But I do think he plays the type of physical game that's going to break him down, and somebody's going to give him a $60 million contract. I want no part of that. So this is an interesting offseason because a lot of people have a lot of money, but Mitch Marner's available. Sam Bennett's going to get a lot of money. There's a couple guys out there that are going to break the bank. And then you also have to remember that now every GM saying, I'm kind of interested in offer sheets. So, people are going to be saving their money for those as well. So I think that there's an opportunity here for the Devils to kind of swoop in and get some of those guys in the middle. Where in some years a guy what's his name? Tyler Bertuzzi is breaking the bank with Chicago. I think the Devils could sneak in and get him for a little bit cheaper than what he would have. He's under contract in Chicago, but a guy like him, I haven't jumped into the free agency pool yet. I got to do that, but I that's where I want to be. I want to be in the middle, and I think the Devils have to make some moves just to get there because Luke Hughes' contract is up. So I think he's going to get a big contract of at least $8 million a year. You're going to be left with like $9 to $10 million to spend on your entire bottom six, on a backup goalie. Even if it's Dodge, that takes $1 million away from it. There's a lot that the they'll have to do this offseason. I think you got to move a guy like a Palat, or you definitely. I mean, I think they're buying out Holla. I think they're just going to cut their losses there because I don't think anybody's going to trade for him. And honestly, I think he might go back to Finland. Like he was so bad this year. I don't know. He might get a PTO, right? Like somebody might give him like the Kevin LeBlanc treatment. I am curious. I was thinking about this the other day. Do you think Kevin LeBlanc could have just continued playing as well as he did in the preseason in the Devils system? Like, do you think there was a systematic part of that to it? Because he didn't play that well in Columbus.
I think it was a nice story.
Okay.
I mean, LeBlanc, I felt like he was like the Tommy DeVito. It was a very nice story that he was ripping it up, or Jeremy Lin, but that's just preseason.
Jeremy Lin got the bag.
But it was just preseason, and it was a nice story.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I do think he would have done better than some of the fourth-line players we had, but probably doesn't move the needle much.
I think he would have done better with the Devils than Columbus. I mean, Columbus is Columbus,
right.
And again, he went for a better deal for himself, and it is what it is. But getting back to Sam Bennett, I mean, the reason why he's going to command that kind of money, Nick, is those players are hard to find. They're very hard to find.
But they don't last usually.
I don't care about last. I'm caring about now, And look at Palat. What do we do with him? You can buy him out eventually. You could trade him, if it doesn't work out. But so far, Jack Hughes isn't lasting an entire season. Same with Luke Hughes this year.
Well, I mean, Luke Hughes that's like a one-time thing, and he did last most of the season. He just missed the first month.
He was conditioning, and he got hurt. To me, that's a red flag. How do you get hurt lifting weights? Should you have a trainer nearby?
We don't have the entire story there, so I think that one's a.
What are you talking about? Wasn't that like he was training?
But we don't know how he got hurt. Did he fall? Did he run into something? Was he lifting and like his shoulder failed? Like there's a lot of different ways you could get hurt during.
Oh, I thought he was lifting weights and he got hurt.
Did that come out? I don't remember seeing that. So I'll take your word for it, but I don't remember that.
That's what I remember hearing.
And if that's the case, yeah, that is a little concerning. But I'm concerned about the surgeries because they're not going to I just don't think you're going to be able to bulk. And Jack Hughes especially needs the bulk. Luke Hughes is a bigger guy than Jack Hughes. He's 6'1", I think. So he's just built bigger, but he's still slender compared to Brendan Dillon. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at with this team. I just think that I agree with you. They need that piece. I don't know who it is yet because I haven't jumped in. It's unfortunate that they haven't drafted a guy like that. They've been so focused on defense for the past 4 years in the draft that you don't have a guy like that you've drafted, right? That you've developed. I thought Herman Traff could be that guy, and then they traded him for Brian Dumoulin. So there's a lot to do. The to-do list is long, Sam.
Oh, it is long. Again, I'll say it again. You had Logan Cooley right there. I think he would have been a great fit.
Yeah.
But
he's small. That doesn't help what you're trying to do.
Yeah, but it helps with
the
third center. I mean, he's a mini Jack, but
right. They'd be much better off right now with Logan Cooley than Nemitz. But Nemitz looked good. But I don't want to take anything away from him. He looked really good in the playoffs.
No, it's not to take it away from him. It's just at the time period, you knew you had Casey, and I just
you had Luke. Like that was the thing. Is you had Luke Hughes.
Yeah.
He was clearly a very good player.
But I think the bottom six was small. I think that's what it boils down to. Like, let's not bring the Tatars back, the Lazars, and even Bastion. He was too slow. Cotter, he could stay, but
yeah, I like Cotter. I think Cotter is a really good piece. I just think he was getting used to a lot of things. He's never going to be a consistent scorer. What do he end up with? Like 16 goals this year?
Something like that.
Which I'm thrilled with that.
I think long term, if they can sign Cody Glass, I think that would be helpful. I wouldn't mind having Cody Glass start, be on the fourth line next season.
Yeah,
but,
I think
you got what's that?
I think he needs to take a pay cut.
Pay cut?
Because he's making like 2.3 or 2.6, something like that. I would give him a 3-year deal at like 2.
Mm-hmm.
But if not, I think you're. I mean, he's a restricted free agent, so they have control. And I do want him back. I think a full season in this system, I think he'd be more consistent. But
yeah,
go ahead. I kind of cut you off before you were making your point.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, in an ideal world, because I haven't looked at the salary cap, whatever. But I think Cody Glass would be excellent on the fourth line as a fourth line center. And if you could bring in somebody on the second line and move, you could play around with the third line, but they need more scoring from the bottom six. And you're not going to wear down teams with small guys. You got to roll all four lines. Defensively, I love what they did, but Dylan's hurt. Kovacevic is hurt. They're locked to multi-year deals. What happens there? That's a concern. Pesci's locked long term. Same with Dougie Hamilton. Don't mind that. Luke Hughes. Look, the whole Quinn Hughes buzz. If you're going to get Quinn, you better lock down Luke now. You should lock down Lou now, because if he really wants to play with his brothers, you would have Jack and Luke for at least 5 years?
5 more years.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know what to make of that whole Vancouver, the Rutherford thing. I think he's trying to put more pressure off of himself and putting him more on Tom Fitzgerald to do something.
Probably. I think part of it is he's trying to warn his fan base. Like, this might happen. I'm kind of like losing. But he also came out and said, like, nothing would happen until next year. But they say these things. I'm not convinced, and I wrote about this, Sam. I'm not convinced the Devils would be the only team in on him. I think Detroit would trade for Quinn Hughes thinking they could re-sign him. I think Toronto would trade for Quinn Hughes thinking they could re-sign him. You got to remember, like, Jim Hughes worked for Toronto for, like, 10 years during some of Quinn Hughes' formidable years. So he probably spent a lot of time in Toronto, rooted for Toronto probably, because, Dad works for that team. I'm rooting for the team that Dad works for. And I think Vegas is always just a team that can somehow convince players to re-sign. You remember Noah Hannafin? They made the big trade for Noah Hannafin. And everybody's like, well, he's going to resign it. He's going to sign in Tampa. He wants to go to Tampa. Why would you make that move? And he signs for 8 years in Vegas for not like a crazy number. So I just think the Devils can't go into this too confident. I think you have to go into the Quinn Hughes things with a little bit of fear. A little bit of fear that you could drop the ball on this.
Did you read the Larry Brooks article on that?
I did.
I liked it. I really liked his article.
Yeah,
and
I
the
mean,
stake.
it made a lot of sense. The trade was, I think it was one piece too many, from what I remember. And I think people are failing to put, like, there's going to be, like, another NHL player in there, whether it's Palat, whether it's Hamilton, beyond. Like, but again, like, if I told you that they traded a 2026 first, Dawson Mercer and Simone Nemeth for Quinn Hughes tomorrow, would you be upset?
No.
I don't think I would be either. I would be like, dang, that's a lot. But like, this is a Norris caliber defenseman every year. You're getting 2 extra years of him. You know, that costs. Like all these people saying, we'll just wait till he gets to free agency. I just laid out a couple teams that could beat you there, and then he never gets to free agency. But even if it's a guarantee that he's getting to free agency, that means you're going 2 more years. 2 more prime Nico Hischier years. 2 more prime Jack Hughes years. 2 more prime Timo Myers. 2 more prime Jesper Bratt years without this guy on the roster who would elevate you to a championship level team. So, you know, and I do think you know, it gets complicated because you have to edit forward. But if you give them Dougie Hamilton back, you know, it's kind of a wash, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would be hard to lose Hamilton and Nemeth because what used to be a strength on the right side is now kind of all of a sudden a weakness because you're going to be without Kovacevic to start the year. Seamus Casey doesn't really seem like he was ready to be a full-time NHLer. And like you said, Brett Pesce is dealing with injuries, so you know there's a risk there, but it's not a risk not worth taking, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's it, Sam. I think we do a quick one for 300, and
It was definitely not a quick one. It went by fast, but it's definitely not a
Yeah.
quick one. We're over the 30-minute mark, just so you're aware.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'm ready for plugs.
Yeah. Why don't you plug ahead?
I got an article from Jersey Joe that's going to be coming out within the hour. Talking about Quinn Hughes, talking about Arseniy Gritsik. So take a look. That's going to be up before 10 o'clock. I have an article that came out yesterday that talked about what went wrong with the lessons learned and the Devils. Or no, last night's was I regraded Tom Fitzgerald's 2024 offseason. I gave new grades to signings like Tomas Tatar or trades for Johnny Kovacevic. So go check that out. We have the Quinn Hughes article that I just talked about. We have the what the Devils learned from the Carolina series that I talked about. Vinny Parisi has an article up. The guys are rolling. We're hitting the gas. We're going to be going full steam ahead. It's going to be great.
Well, I have nothing to plug. I'm in my off-season mode.
All right.
Total just doing nothing, lazy. Yeah, you know what? It is a long season. When you do this, Nick, and you should know, it's a long season. And even though the season kind of fell short of where we wanted to be, I wanted to be in the third round this year.
Yeah.
This season. Reflecting back, and this is my last point, I think the Devils made progress forward. What makes it hard is not knowing what the future is because of these injuries that have happened and surgeries and whatnot. And we shall see. We shall see what the Devils do. But one thing for certain, I do like Sheldon Keefe a lot. I really do.
I think you got the right coach. There's a story that came out that the Devils went after Mike Sullivan. I didn't realize Mike Sullivan hasn't won a round since like 2018.
I think he's overrated, to be honest.
I think he's a good coach, but like I like Sheldon Keefe too. So it's I think we're in good shape.
This is where this is me trolling and trash talking Ranger fans now that Mike Sullivan's on the team, on their team. How can you not win Stanley Cups with Malkin and Crosby in their primes.
And honestly, like, I think the Rangers are more than a coach away from being good.
Yeah.
Like, their roster's a mess.
Yeah. They've relied on Shesterkin for so long, and when Shesterkin finally came back down to reality after he signed that contract, they got work to do.
Piggy Iggy, as our friend Stan Fisher would call him.
We got to get Stan in the offseason because that man had me laughing.
I was dying.
Just he went like hard at the Rangers. When Stan is mad, he's at his greatest. Like that time with Gary Bettman, asking him about Nashville.
Yeah, how could you not love Stan?
Yeah.
Hopefully, future Hall of Famer Stan Fisher.
Hopefully, we should start that campaign this summer. Maybe I should be annoying about it. Anyway,
we should start sending letters.
All right. We got to go, but I will last second plug. Thank you, Ted. Drink and Crew Brew. We'll make winning memories together, one crew at a time. Go to pucksandpitchforks.com. Until next time, let's go Devils.